You have parasites that could be 4 feet long living in your gut. And did you know that parasites have actually been just one area that many integrative and functional holistic doctors are looking at for root causes to cancer? There are peer-reviewed studies that actually show the positive correlation between high parasite loads and cancer. Now, I did a video previously on parasites and how to bind and detox during a full moon as a general parasite protocol. But there are actual herbs that have been tested against time for actively killing the parasites in your gut. This means more than just binding heavy metals and parasites. This means actually killing them, which is so much more effective than at expelling them. And I'm going to break all of that down in this episode of The Holistic Homestead. Before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more health and homesteading content. Let's dig in. I'm standing in my apothecary pantry. Herbs have always been a huge love of mine ever since I found my love for gardening, because there is so many ways that you can use them. The first most obvious is culinary. But there's actually quite a bit of medicinal uses that we can take from herbs that are also culinary. And so while I have this incredible collection of homegrown dried herbs in my pantry, I am also looking at herbs that I might not have here or that I haven't processed into tinctures for use in parasite cleansing. And that's where herbs comes in. I shared with you this product line that's been around for 25 plus years and recently rebranded in my last video because I use their chlorophyll, chloroxygen, every morning, first thing before I consume anything else. But today I'm going to tell you about their anti-parasitic medicine right here. All herbs, clean, grown on family farms, time tested. And these herbs actually have peer-reviewed studies that show the efficacy of killing parasites and removing them. So what happens, our parasites are living in your gut, actively feeding on the good and the bad, right? So it could be heavy metals that you'd want them to feed on, but it could also be feeding on your nutrient supply. Very common signs of parasites get overlooked and misdiagnosed, when really it's parasites that are the problem, and they're so common. Any sort of digestive upset, bloating, fatigue, insomnia, inflammation of just about every kind, all of that can be root cause because of parasites. And this is a maintenance thing. We're never going to always get rid of parasites as long as we are interacting with nature, walking barefoot, having pets that we snuggle. We are like big animals that are always going to be in contact with parasitic eggs and parasites. And so it's not a matter of killing them off for good and being done with it. It's a matter of maintaining them so that we don't get the 4-foot long ones in our gut. True story, I had a client in Florida that started doing parasite cleansing, and the first month she had a 4-foot long parasite in the toilet. And that happened every month for 4 months as she was doing this cleansing. She ate a lot of sushi. But it really blew my mind how much they can exist just within your gut. It also reminds me of a time when I was in the Amazon and I was in this small little office building, the only place where there was a computer in the jungle. And there was this katydid on the floor that was like jumping around, freaking out, and it caught my attention because it was acting so weird. Well, lo and behold, this massive worm that was like 10 times the size of the cicada, obviously the cicada was dying and the parasite was leaving its body. So this is just a part of nature that I have accepted, and it's weird and it's funky, but it's also really intriguing. I love sushi, I love animals, I love walking out barefoot. I'm not going to stop doing any of those things, But what I am gonna do is regular parasite cleansing. So let's take a look at this product and the herbs that have been time tested to remove, by killing, the parasites. Wormwood, probably one of the most common antiparasitics out there. Quassia, clove, and male fern. All of these individually can be used to treat parasites. I grow wormwood in my garden and I feed that to my goats and my chickens. And when I had rabbits, I fed it to them too to control parasites. But you get all of those all in one, just in this capsule. It's just one capsule. So now let's talk about a little of the review from the previous video of how to take these. You can do a parasite cleanse any time of the month. If you're feeling extreme signs like that insomnia or itching at nighttime, you can go ahead and take this. It suggests that you take it before meals so that way it can really get in there and knock out those parasites before it gets diluted with food and water. So 3 times a day, 1 soft gel, and you can do that for a few days. It's really hard to overdo herbs, and that's why I love this brand so much, because herbs in general are very gentle but extremely effective, unlike pharmaceuticals. I think one of the most fascinating parts about parasites is the evidence of the relationship between parasites and cancer. And going back to root cause issues, when we look at the gut that accounts for 70% of your immune system, it makes perfect sense that parasites in your gut and in your intestines have some influence over 70% of your health. But the data on parasites and cancer is fascinating. I think particularly what has struck me the most are all of the personal stories that I have read on Facebook, through friends and family, about how they had stage 1, 2, 3, 4 cancer and decided to tackle their parasite load. And by doing so, saw a massive shift in their treatment. So when you take these, you can take them anytime. Use my other videos reference on the full moon cleanse, which is scheduling your cleanse with the full moon in the middle. So for example, if you're doing a 3-day cleanse, you would start the day before the full moon, continue through the full moon, and the day after. And then there's other ways that you can optimize that experience, like exercise, getting in the sauna, sweating it out, moving your lymphatic system, eating a clean diet. And I'm sorry to say, but it is just so true, doing some sort of enema. And that's because these suckers can literally latch on. So by doing an enema, you are flushing them out. But this is extremely important, the concept of actually targeting the parasites and not just binding and detoxing the parasite load. When you kill the parasites, you're killing them in their cycle. You're killing their egg development, their initial hatching development, and then of course the full-grown worms. Parasite cleansing is something that is safe for everybody, and I just can't recommend it enough. Now, before I conclude this episode, there's some other products that I was just introduced to that I want to tell you about. I'll save my favorite for last. This is phytocillium, and its main ingredient is usnea, which is a lichen that is actually native in Appalachia, and I see it all over the place. I have heard so many incredible things about usnea. This particular tincture is used to support respiratory and digestive defense. And I think that usnea is just really fascinating because usnea is like nature's antibiotic, and you can tincture it. But on top of that, you also have yerba mansa, the root, propolis, which is the bee propolis, which is a major immune boosting ingredient, echinacea, which is also a highly antimicrobial, antifungal, antiviral plant, licorice, roots, Oregon grape, and hops. All of these ingredients have been shown to increase immunity and also calm your digestive system. So basically, knocking out any issues you've got going on in your gut while also supporting the digestive system itself. this would be excellent to take in conjunction with the para-free product. Next up, ImmunoBoost. This would be a major go-to for my kiddos during the winter time. These tinctures are going to be so much more effective than just, say, plain elderberry syrup. And that's because when you dilute any of these medicinal herbs in alcohol, they are going to absorb the medicinal properties so much more than in, say, water or even glycerin or honey. And for kids, I would put this in a glass of orange juice or some tea with honey. And the active ingredients are dried echinacea root, fresh echinacea root, basically all parts of the echinacea, including the flower, astragalus, and calendula. Calendula over here. I label all of my bottles so that way I get to know their medicinal benefits. And calendula is antibacterial, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and anti-cancer. It's also used as an antispasmodic for cramps and for eye care. The very last one that is just my number one go-to is straight up echinacea. Let's have a little talk about echinacea. First of all, it's a perennial. It grows beautiful and multiplies bountifully in the garden. Pollinators love it. You can use all parts of the plant, and it is my number one go-to for cold and flu season, or basically anything viral. When I had naturalist Caleb Arnold on my property to help identify some of the wild medicinals on my property, one of the things he talked about a lot was echinacea. And I'm always trying to figure out the worst case scenario, like what if there was a major shutdown and we didn't have access to a hospital and we got bit by a snake? What would we do? His response was he would hope that he would have access to echinacea, because echinacea is one of the most powerful antiviral, antimicrobial plants out there. And I have a big tub of the dried leaves here that I put in tea at the very onset. But this right here is the most powerful stuff. So how do I take tinctures? I can take them just underneath my tongue, but you can also dilute them in a little bit of water, which will make it a little bit easier to take down, or you could put in a glass of tea or juice. What's important about herbs is our reconnection to nature and our resiliency and trusting that nature actually has a lot of the medicine we need. Broken bone, go to the hospital. Snake bite, go to the hospital. But if it's not an emergency, you should give herbs a try. And at least start with herbs to reconnect that relationship with what has divinely been given to us on this earth. I hope I've inspired you to knock out some of those worms in your gut, as well as trust a little bit more in the power of herbal medicine. If I have, please make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel for more health and homesteading content, and check out those memberships and supers for more support.